I haven't sat down to film in so long. This feels crazy. But let's get to it. My name is Avigwe. This channel is called For Confidence Sake. And this title should be something about peace and provision. Why isn't God providing type vibes? I don't know. But I was spending some time with God literally on the 30th of November. I know that because I journaled. And he basically told me to do this video. And I wasn't expecting, I was like, really? But you have to be obedient. So I know this is for somebody, and if not, it's definitely for myself. And that's why I was like, really, should I really talk about this? But listen, we can't question him. But God has been dealing with me and like doubt, and sorry, I've got my laptop and I want to keep it on, so if you see me moving towards, but yeah, God's been dealing with me and doubt for a while now. I'm not gonna lie. Doubt has been one of the biggest things, like challenges, or was in my life. God would tell me something and then I wouldn't see it, and I'd just be like, did I hear correctly? Am I sure that he wants me here? Or am I sure that he wants me to do this? Or all these other things. And recently I had a situation with a train. It was just a small thing. Like, the train was delayed for like 20 minutes. And I was like, no, forget this. Usually I'm trying to get to the next place now. So I was trying to go home. And so normally I wouldn't even sit down on the train that's delayed for 20 minutes. I'm trying to figure out the next train. But my train app was not working, so I couldn't figure it out. And then by the time I did, I had already missed a train that would have got me home faster. So I ended up leaving the train that I was on, which was later on turned out to be, I believe, a mistake. So now I'm like halfway home now. The train that I ended up getting on that I thought was going to get me there faster got delayed. So I'm like, God, like, even to myself, I was just irritated. When I feel delayed, I get irritated. It's not a good thing. Working on it. But I was like, I wish if I just stayed on that train. And then God said to me, why do you still see waiting as a punishment? And I was like, oh, it's like you didn't know what I was protecting you from when you got on that train. And honestly, I think that is a story for life in general. When we're waiting, we don't realise why we're waiting. Like, you've got bills to be paid. You've got people who are relying on you. Why aren't you providing, God? You know, has been a question. So frustration has definitely been one of the major things that I felt when I'm waiting for God. Seeing it as a punishment. And, you know, sometimes I'll pray about things and be like, God, I've prayed. Like, why aren't you answering? And then I hesitate to pray. But Matthew 7:11. I've got all my notes here. Listen, usually I don't write notes, but this time is different because God told me to do this. So I've come different. Matthew 7:11, I believe, talks about like asking on God, waiting on God, asking for God. I'm going to have everything, like all the scriptures that I talk about there, because a lot of the times I paraphrase scriptures, but yeah. So on that note, I'm going to get into the ways that I've found peace in waiting. And I think the first and foremost, the biggest way is to remember God's character. Remembering God's character is key. Like, when we're waiting, even today I saw a note that I left for myself in July, and I was like, I wanted to complain and say, like, what? I don't like where I am. Like, when am I going to be moved on from this part? And then before I was like going to type it out and complain and whatever, I realised that, listen, God has never, ever, ever, ever let me down. Ever. I don't know about you, but I am pretty sure if we're serving the same God, he's never let you down too. Often it can be uncomfortable that he takes us to that place where we feel like, are you going to come through? That last second place. But I know he doesn't let us down. Doesn't matter how close we are to the edge, he's going to hold us on. I think often he's actually waiting for us, you know, to like be like, you know what, I surrender. And it's actually, that leads me on to something that I read today, which I actually kind of wanted to say was a daily devotion I read. And I want to read it directly, so I'm not paraphrasing this. And in the daily devotion, it said there's nothing wrong with searching for meaning or understanding. However, we ultimately need to surrender our understanding and opinions to God's truth. Surrendering our thoughts enables us to trust his. His ways are above our ways. His thoughts are above our thoughts. And I think when we're so bogged down with our thoughts and we're like, is he going to come through? And often that can lead us to a place where we're tempted to do it by ourselves. We're tempted to start strategizing and theorizing, like, okay, if God doesn't come through, that could be the way we're thinking in our mind. If he doesn't, then I'll have this plan. And I don't think that's a good way to go. If we really reflect on God's character, one, Matthew 6:26 says, the birds don't sow nor do they reap. And God favours us more than he favours birds. So if they don't have to sow or reap, how much more about us? Like, I think it is a testament to God's character that, listen, I see you. I know your needs. That's another verse that I'm sure I'm going to put here as well. But when you reflect on times that God's provided, when he's been there for you, then you allow gratitude to lead you. And I think gratitude is a very powerful energy to come from. He asks us to come with the password thanks. It just shifts things. When we're worrying and we're anxious, if we tap into gratitude, often the answer's right there. And if not, it will be very soon. And I think the second point, which kind of is like linked to the first point, is that God is our heavenly parent. Okay, I'm not huge into editing, but I got a call. So I think I was going from God is our heavenly parent. That's my second point. He already knows our needs. In Matthew 6:31 verse to 33, already says, when we put God first, all other things shall be added onto us. So I guess a way to have peace when you're waiting for God is to seek him. Seek him like you never have before. Be open to him. And this leads me on to my third point. So being honest with God is literally like, it's such a huge deal. I don't think we realise that honesty is what he requires from us. I don't know why, if you're anything like me at least, we try and present ourselves to God as perfect, or like we're going through some times but we're like, God in heaven, and speaking all this niceness, but really and truly we want to cry and really and truly want to say, listen, I don't understand what's happening. And he wants that from us. If we look at the Psalms, like a lot of those Psalms, I think Psalm 42, Psalm 43, are them being honest. I don't know why my soul is downtrodden when I trust in you. Those type of things is what he wants from us. Listen, God, I'm going through this and I trust and believe in you, but this is how I feel. And honestly, when I presented myself in that way to God, the amount of things that I've seen him, the ways that he's come through and what he's done for me has been crazy, like overnight transformation a lot of the time. And the verse to go with that is Philippians 4 verse 6-7 says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made to God, known to God, and the peace of God which surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. So that's a major thing. I think we all know those verses, and I think it's one thing about hearing verses but also meditating on them and taking them as what they say. Like I mentioned before, thanksgiving, letting all your requests be known, and then you'll have the peace. So being honest with God enables peace to come to us. And then I think one of my last points is letting God guide you no matter how it seems. In my journey, my friends will know, my family will know, some of the things that God's asked me to do in my journey do not make any sense. Don't make any sense. Like, I remember at one point I was unemployed and God was like, don't apply to a job. I'm not saying that's for anyone else, but it was for me. And I tell my friends and family, they're like, are you sure he told you that? Are you sure? I'm like, I don't know what I don't know. I think so. I was even doubting it myself. Like I said, doubt was a big thing. But then everything, he was right. Because when it was the time for me to look, the way things turned around and the like path he led me on, I'm going to have to do a video about it. The path he led me on was nothing that I was ever considering in this life in any way, shape or form. There's something about his timing. And I think that's why Proverbs 3 verse 5-6, which is the verse that I've linked to this point, which is saying that to trust on the Lord with all your, like, rely on God, fully, Lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall make your paths plain or straight. So yeah, that's like I said, put in like verses, and I want this to be very biblically based on purpose, because it's not about opinion. I think a lot of the videos we have about peace and is people telling us how to do things in a very worldly way. But if you have faith, and even if you don't, there's something about the Bible that is just true. It's just when you really meditate on it and have those words, those verses in your heart, or even just on your mind, the way they can change you. This Proverbs verse has been, because sometimes overthink. So this verse grounds me heavily. I'm like thinking about something. I'm like, okay, wait, no. I'm leaning on my own understanding. Checks me, boom. I'm like right back into it again. But on this point, I wanted to mention an important point, which I think is being aware of counterfeits. Often when we're waiting, whether that's for a job, a spouse, money, whatever you might be waiting for, counterfeits can come. Usually just before you're about to get what God's actually given for you. Again, I have so many things that I could say in this place. They can come in the form of a person, a friendship, an opportunity, and everything will sound so good about it. Everything will be so just divinely, it seemed so divinely orchestrated. Besides, something just doesn't sit right with you. Or maybe it does, but God won't be in it. And that is a danger of counterfeits. Whenever you are waiting for something, go to God. When you get that job offer and you're like, oh, this sounds amazing, say, God, is this from you? Just question it. There's no harm in questioning, like, is this from you? Did you give this to me? Do you want me to have this? Again, in my waiting season, I've cried out to God, especially about finances. God, I just need this. And the opportunity came a few months ago, and I said, oh, they were Christian, like it was like a job opportunity. The person I was speaking to was Christian, and I just felt like, wow, this must be God. Like, I was just crying yesterday, and look at who I'm speaking to today. And I asked God, like, God, listen, I know this opportunity seems good, but if it's not from you, I do not want it. And boy, did after a few weeks that opportunity crumble. But I'm so grateful, because I wouldn't want to be where God isn't. I felt that before, we felt that before, and it's not pretty. And then that also, I think this is one of my last points. Don't let what you're waiting for become an idol. I didn't even really understand the concept of idols until very recently, if I'm going to be honest with you, like this year. I didn't think I had an idol. Like, you know, when you see all these people that are like, this celebrity is my idol, I used to say, God forbid, I don't have an idol in a human. Until I realised that an idol is anything you put your trust in, or anything you come to before you come to God. So that if that is, I don't know, a TV show, a friendship, your parent, money, whatever you put your trust in before, more than God, or whatever you come to before you come to God, you can easily make an idol. Honestly, let that sit with you. You might have to pause the video and think. I had to write a list. I was doing a fast and I had to write a list of what I had idolized without even knowing it. And the danger in idols is that God will allow the idols of your heart to speak to your mind. So you might be hearing an idol in your heart that's telling you to do something. You're like, God's speaking to me. It may not be. It may be what you've idolized. And again, with finances and the way our society is built, we have put, I mean, it's built to put money on a pedestal. Money's good, by the way, but the love of it isn't. Idolizing it definitely isn't. You can't serve two masters, the Bible says. So I understand that we can put our hope in money before God. If I just had this, if I just had £1,000, £2,000, £1 million. No. No amount of money is going to trump God's support for you. You know, nothing, not that partner, not whatever. God is above it all. So now the verse with this is 1 Timothy 6 verse 17. And that warns us not to set our hopes on uncertain riches, but on God, who richly and ceaselessly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. That's the Amplified version. I thought that was a very powerful verse. Like, we can look at people who seem like they have what we want. If like, look at them, oh wow, they're able to do this and they're able to do that. But those riches are uncertain. They literally can be gone tomorrow. They can triple tomorrow. You know, we don't know that. But God is the same today, yesterday, and forever. And that's what I can say brings us peace. So ultimately, this video is all about God. In summary, we can access the peace of God, and when we rely on Him, He desires our intimacy. So when, in terms of that, we rely on Him, and if we come to Him in honesty and truth, in vulnerability, He desires that. He wants us to connect with Him so desperately. Like, not desperately. Desperate is a bad word, but like He yearns for it almost. Like I feel like in the time that I spent with God, when I've tried to connect with Him, it's like, finally you've come to me. Like I've been waiting for you. That type of vibe, not desperately, because God's never desperate. But if you're currently waiting, you can ask God, what is the purpose of this season? What is the purpose of you having me wait? And also pray against doubt. Pray against doubt and repent if you've already been allowed doubt to root in your heart. That's really what I can say. I hope I have all the verses there. I'm not really like, that amazing at editing. We're getting there. But I wanted to form this video differently. It's not like how I usually sit down and just talk for God knows how long and don't really have any structure to it. This one had to be based with Bible. It had to be different. This is the type of video that I'm going to have to watch again. Believe me when I say that waiting, like I said earlier, has been something that I've seen as punishment. Something that, like I said again earlier, that I've had to surrender my thoughts and see it how God sees it. How does God see waiting? He sees it as a part of His process. A beautiful part of His process, and nothing is by accident. So whatever you're waiting for with God, I pray that God will renew your strength in this season. I pray that God will give you clarity on how to wait on Him, and that you'll see why it was all important, that you'll be able to look back and just give Him praise and just have joy in your heart. Thank you for watching this video. I'm pretty much done now. I usually do vlogs, travel, food, and I guess now I speak about God too. But this is an important conversation, and I feel like if you watch this all the way, you are meant to. And if you think this video applies to somebody else, send it to them. You never know what God's words of encouragement can do in someone's life. We've all been there. And like I said, I just pray blessings over you, joy over you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Feel free to like, subscribe. Like I said, I do videos at least once a month, hopefully more. Yeah, take care.